India and Japan to strike a military deal in coming weeks. India is pulling all the companies out of China to start their businesses in India. A new summit between India and China to be held in coming weeks. The Prime Minister of India, Mr. Modi, and the Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe, has a scheduled meeting in 2 months' time. They will decide what's the next step to act on China and its expansionism. The two PMs are expected to sign a Military Logistical Pact, acquisition and cross-serving agreement, and a possibility of shifting Japanese manufacturing from China to India. According to some officials, both countries' PM will hold a meeting in October of 2020. This meeting comes at a time when the Chinese transgression and standoff happening in the India-China border. Even the same is happening in Japan's sea near the Senkaka island. Officials told both the PMs will discuss about the Ladakh China, South China Sea, and also to a strong the Quad concept, which we say as a new NATO for the Asia. While India has signed the Military Logistical Pact with the Quad countries like US, Australia, and now with Japan. India's Military Logistical Pact is a version of indirect non-permanent military base. India already have this pact with most of all the important southeastern countries. While India is nearing for the annual Malabar exercise with US, Japan, India to invite Australia again after a decade. Official of the two countries has said they will also discuss the start of a new project on the militaries and the trade port development in Andaman Nicobar Islands of India, also pushing Japanese companies and opening doors for the manufacturing in India. After Apple Inc. and the Foxconn, Samsung is shifting its major parts of its production line to India from Vietnam. The South Korean company is already producing smartphones in India, but it is just 2% of its production line. Now with India's incentive offer, Samsung is moving its production line to India. It's $200 smartphone production to go up to 20% in production in India. Currently, Samsung makes 50% of its production in Vietnam. This move will help India to bring up 1 million jobs, not only from Samsung, from Apple, Foxconn, Pakistan, Wistron, and other 24 companies which edge to find ways to open up offices in India. Many experts say the $200 to $300 price tag smartphone production in India will add up to 20 to 25% market value for the exports from India. India already making many efforts to stop China on the economy level with the ban of apps, product restrictions, and manufacturing shift are starting to hinder China a little bit. This is not a major problem for China, but in this name, India is trying to be self-reliant and putting up show of strength. So what do you think of India getting more military bases in Japan against China? Will India be a full self-reliant country in coming years?
India is making its own One Belt, One Road in Africa, Iran, Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asia, along with Japan partnered. May 16, 2017. India and Japan are together embarking upon multiple infrastructure projects across Africa, Iran, Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asia in what could be viewed as a pushback against China's massive infrastructure initiative under the One Belt One Road project connecting it with Europe and Africa. India has conspicuously stayed away from so-called the New Silk Road, launched with much fanfare by Chinese President Xi Jinping on Sunday because of tragic and security concern. While in East Africa, Delhi and Tokyo are planning to fund infrastructure and capacity building projects, Japan is expected to join the Indian foray into the expansion of Iran's Chamber port and the adjoining special economic zone. In eastern Sri Lanka, the two countries are expected to jointly expand the strategically located Trincomalee port. They are also likely to join hands to develop Tawai port along the Thai-Myanmar border. India and Japan are holding a separate session on May 24 with the stakeholders from Africa on the sidelines of African Development Bank's meeting in Ahmedabad to discuss the joint projects in capacity building and infrastructures. Japan's State Minister of Finance will lead the country's delegation at the meeting. India-Japanese initiatives are the part of the Freedom Corridor that stretch from Asia Pacific to Africa. The Chinese increased military and political assertiveness in Japan's immediately its security environment is a key driver for this change. By expanding their bilateral relations to include joint infrastructure development across Asia and Africa, Abe and Modi are looking to leverage Japan's economic and India's strategic outrage beyond South Asia to the border of Indian Pacific Ocean region. Africa is the next big destination. India-Japan partnership will unlock Africa's true economic potential, said Prabir Dey, the India's foremost connectivity expert and the chair of the Indian ASEAN Center in Northern think tank. The Mekong India Economic Corridor, connecting Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique growth zone through Jawaharlal Nehru and Kochi port will open up new vistas of Africa and Asia connectivity, mainly to India and Japan partnership.
So, what do you think of India's One Belt One Road initiative with partner with Japan? Will this be a huge success against China's OPEC corridor? The G20 surveillance note expects India's economic to grow at 7.3% in 2019 and 7.5% in 2020. The note said the recent manufacturing indicators points to a tentative rebound in the Asian and the Latin American countries except India. The note comes ahead of G20 finance ministers and the central bank governors meeting on June 8 and 9th. It has been prepared by the International Monetary Fund or the IMF staff, but does not necessarily reflect the views of IMF. The global growth is projected to remain stable at 3.6%, but will rely on the weights shifting towards the countries with relatively higher growth rates, mainly to the G20 emerging markets such as China and India. April 2019, the World Economic Outlook revised down the projection for the global growth to 3.3%. Will this follow or except other countries, India is slightly going slower than last 5 years into coming 5 years.